It started with a single body, face down in a murky creek, tangled in brush like discarded trash. August 1982, King County, Washington. The Green River gently snaked its way through the trees. Unaware it would soon become synonymous with horror, a place where bodies surfaced like grim reminders. One, then another, then another. Police thought it might be a drug deal gone wrong, maybe some kind of gang hit, but the bodies kept coming, and they all had one thing in common: women. Young, often vulnerable, most of them sex workers, many with no one to report them missing. By the time the third woman's body was found, the press gave him a name: the Green River Killer.
For a long time, people in the Seattle area and elsewhere in the Pacific Northwest have had a string of unsolved murders on their minds. They're called the Green River Murders.
And the police? They had nothing, no witnesses, no suspects, just corpses, and he knew it.
37 women are dead, 9 more still missing, and police have spent $10 million hunting the most deadly serial killer in American history.
That was part of the thrill. He wasn't just killing, he was outsmarting everyone. Lurking in plain sight, a shadow in the suburbs. A man who could look you in the eyes and smile, and you'd never know he'd left a woman dead in the dirt the night before. His real name? Gary Ridgway. Gary Leon Ridgway wasn't a monster in the eyes of his neighbors. He was just a regular guy, quiet, friendly even. He worked at a truck plant, painting vehicles. Married, divorced, married again. No one suspected that beneath his dull exterior hid a compulsive killer.
Mr. Olson, what's your relationship to Mr. Ridgway?
Well, next door neighbor. He lives right behind me. And casual neighbor.
What was your last conversation with him like?
Well, he just stopped by and said I had a tree that was ready to fall down over the road. So I said, yeah, I've been watching it. So I pulled it back up out of the way so it wouldn't fall down on the road.
I know you don't know him super well, but describe what your impressions real quick of him.
Well, he kind of seemed like a nervous type. My impression.
How did you find out that he had been arrested?
We just come home from a funeral yesterday. I sat down at the news, and there his picture was on the TV, and I just, oh my God. My wife looked at me and said, what's the matter? I said, that looks like our neighbor.
From 1982 to 1984, bodies kept surfacing. Sometimes dumped in the river, sometimes in clusters along back roads or forested areas. Young girls, throats slashed. Some were found nude, some with ligature marks on their necks or wrists. He would later say he killed so many women, he lost count. Can you imagine that? Taking someone's life, and not remembering her name, her face. Just a body, a means to an end, a habit. That's what they were to him, habits.
What you're getting is what you're gonna get, and it's all you can get because I don't remember.
He'd find them on the streets of Seattle or Tacoma. Vulnerable women, runaways, sex workers. The kinds of women no one missed right away. He'd pick them up in his truck, make small talk, act gentle. Then he'd take them somewhere quiet, wooded areas, back roads, even his own home. And when they weren't looking, when their guard dropped, that's when he'd strike. His method was always the same. He'd choke them from behind, slowly, methodically, with his bare hands. Sometimes he'd strangle them during sex. Other times he'd pretend to want intimacy, just to catch them off guard. He later said strangling was the most satisfying way to kill. Sometimes after they were dead, he'd dress them again. Sometimes not, and more than once he returned to the crime scenes to defile their corpses. He admitted to necrophilia. His tone when confessing? Cold, almost bored, like he was reciting a grocery list.
When I got through having a climax with her, I jumped on her.
How much are you pulling on her neck?
I'm pulling really hard on her neck.
How?
Just like this.
What are you saying to her?
Don't fight, and I'll let you go. I'm feeling, I gotta kill her, I gotta kill her, I gotta kill her.
By 1984, the Green River Task Force had over 60 detectives, hundreds of interviews, polygraphs, roadblocks, but still no solid lead. He kept killing, the list of victims grew, and then finally, hope. The police brought in a profiler, someone who could get inside the killer's head. Their choice? A man who knew all too well what a serial killer looked like, Ted Bundy. From his prison cell in Florida, Bundy offered chilling insights. He said the killer would revisit his dump sites, that he'd return to admire his work, that he'd leave bodies in groups to fuel his fantasy of dominance. He was right.
In his own mind, he wasn't a savage, lust-filled killer, but he was this guy who just got mad. The bitch made him mad.
But even with that profile, Ridgway stayed one step ahead. He changed tactics, moved locations, and worst of all, he learned how to blend in better. He got smarter. The killing slowed in the late 80s, then nearly stopped, but the damage was done. Over 40 women were already dead. And still, Gary Ridgway walked free. He married for a third time, started going to church, read the Bible, asked neighbors about their day. Meanwhile, detectives were left chasing shadows. Tips went cold. Families were left with nothing but photos and gravestones. It wasn't until 2001, nearly 20 years after the first body was discovered, that everything changed. Thanks to advances in DNA technology, police were able to retest old evidence, scrapings from beneath a victim's fingernails, tiny strands of semen left behind, DNA that had waited 2 decades for justice. The match? Gary Ridgway. When they arrested him, he was calm. Didn't run, didn't resist, because deep down he knew it was over. But no one was prepared for what came next. Under interrogation, Ridgway made a deal. In exchange for taking the death penalty off the table, he'd confess. Everything, and he did. He talked for hours, days, weeks. He showed no emotion, no guilt, no hesitation. Just number after number.
In Seattle today, a man called the Green River Killer has finally confessed to murdering 48 women and girls, making him the most prolific serial killer in American history. His name is Gary Ridgway.
He confessed to 48 murders. Eventually, that number climbed to 71, and some investigators believe it could be over 90. He remembered details that were never released. How he arranged the bodies, what they wore, where he left them. He even drew maps.
You'll need to go up to kind of like on the top of the hill on this and pull in. I just drove in my pickup and camper and parked it, brought her body over and put it a little bit over the hill.
Between this one and that one up there, you think you put like
five of them in there.
Okay.
In court, family members of the victims stood up to speak. Many wept, some shouted. One father called him an animal. But Gary Ridgway just looked straight ahead, eyes vacant, hands folded, until one woman did something different. She looked him in the eye, and she forgave him. Ridgway cried.
You are a loser, you're a coward, you are nobody, you're an animal.
May God have mercy on your pathetic soul, because the rest of us who know the truth about you won't.
I can only hope someone gets the opportunity to choke you unconscious, so you can live through the horror that you put our daughters, our sisters, our mothers through.
You had said your memory, when it comes to all of the women you took, was gone. Our memory is not. In your words, you said that they didn't mean anything to you, but she meant everything to us.
She was a mother, she was a wife, she was a sister, and we miss her. The one thing that I want you, Gary Ridgway, to know, I was that daughter at home. waiting for my mom to come home.
He's an animal. I wish for him to have a long, suffering, cruel death.
He's gonna go to hell, and that's where he belongs.
Mr. Ridgway, there are people here that hate you. I'm not one of them. You've made it difficult to live up to what I believe, and it is what God says to do, and that's to forgive all. So you are forgiven, sir.
In November 2003, Gary Ridgway pleaded guilty to 48 counts of aggravated murder.
Most of the time, I killed them the first time I met them, and I do not have a good memory for their faces. I killed so many women, I have a hard time keeping them straight. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
And Mr. Ridgway, is it your desire to plead guilty to the 48 charges of aggravated murder in the first degree because you believe that you are guilty of each of those offenses?
Yes.
He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He'll die behind bars, buried in concrete, a monster hidden away, unable to kill again. But the wounds he left behind, they remain open. Families still grieve, mothers still cry. Children still wonder what happened to their mothers, their sisters, their daughters. Even now, not all of the Green River Killer's victims have been identified. Some bodies have never been found. They're still out there, buried in woods, tossed in rivers, hidden by time.